Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1935 adventure drama Mutiny on the Bounty.
William, your friend is wise. He looks, he understands.
Hey, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope I can live up to that praise. If this is your first time joining me, I'm reviewing every movie in this book, the 1001 movies you must see before you die. Mutiny on the Bounty stars Clark Gable as executive officer Fletcher Christian. In this movie, he ditches his signature mustache and is completely clean shaven. It also stars Charles Laughton as Captain Bligh in one of the greatest performances I probably have ever seen in my life, and Franchette Tone as Roger Bynum, who plays a midshipman. Now, this movie was nominated for Best Picture, and it won. It was also nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role for Clark Gable, Charles Laughton, and Franchette Tone. All three of them lost. The winner that year was Victor McLaughlin for The Informer, which is a movie that I have never heard of. It was also nominated for Best Director for Frank Lloyd, Best Writing, Best Film Editing, and Best Music Score. Now, this is one of the few films in Hollywood history to be nominated for a slew of awards and to only win Best Picture. Now, I said Charles Laughton I thought was the best actor in this movie and probably one of the best performances I've ever seen, but he's not considered to be a leading role in this film. I think Clark Gable is considered to be top billing, is considered to be the star of this film. But Charles Laughton did such a great job. He had such a fantastic performance that the Academy Awards, they felt they had to put him somewhere. They had to nominate him for something, so they nominated him for Best Actor. The very next year, because of this movie, because of other things as well, the Academy decided to create the Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress category. That way, when you have an actor who does this fantastic of a job, but you don't have anywhere to put him because he's not the leading actor, you have a category to put him in, and Hollywood history was made. Now, Laughton's performance as Bligh basically set the template for the charismatic tyrant. He has no moral compass. The men who he commands fear him. They are terrified of him. They know that with just one snap of his fingers, he could basically have anyone put to death that he wants, and he basically does that throughout the entire film, and they are absolutely terrified of him. Gable as Fletcher Christian helped define the Hollywood image of a charismatic rebel who was principled and conflicted. This movie tackled themes such as abuse of power, obedience versus conscious and morally justified rebellion. And in this movie, towards the end, there is obviously a mutiny, and the people who are the mutineers decide that they are going to go to an island. This island is called the Pitcairn Island. It is real, and today, most of the people who are on that island are descendants of the mutineers. So that is also a fantastic bit of history. This movie is based off a book, but it has a lot of historical inaccuracies. But even though it has a lot of historical inaccuracies, this was a huge box office hit. It was the biggest hit that MGM had during the 1930s, and it was one of the first big blockbusters in the history of cinema. Now, in this film, we have, when the film first starts out, we have Clark Gable's character, Fletcher Christian, who is in this pub, and he's kind of coercing people to join this expedition under Captain Bligh. Captain Bligh has this reputation of being a tyrant. Everyone knows that he is a terrible person. He is very impossible to work under, and that it is going to be a very harsh couple of years if they go on this voyage, but most of them don't have any choice. It is a law, I guess. A lot of these people are former prisoners, former convicts. There's some law that says that they have to go on this voyage and that it's going to last 2 years. The point of the voyage is to go to Tahiti and get some breadfruit plants and bring them back. And there's one specific person whom they recruit, who has a child. He is a newborn child and a family, and it really tugs at your heartstrings because he says, I can't leave for 2 years. I'm going to leave my wife slash girlfriend all alone with the baby. I may never come back, and then she's alone by herself. It is a very touching, heartfelt moment. But you don't really follow this character throughout the entire movie. You kind of get this beginning and you get his end, but his story doesn't really develop throughout the entire film. So they get their crew and they end up going on this boat. Now, Clark Gable's character, Fletcher Christian, he is very kind of upbeat. He has a positive attitude. He says, yes, this is going to be a rough 2 years, but we're going to get through it. Everything's going to be fine. You'll come out on the other end better men, better sailors, better people. You just have to get through these 2 years and everything will be great. Now, once they get to the boat, and they realize exactly the kind of person that Captain Bligh is. He is someone who is going to fiercely punish you if you do anything that he doesn't like, if you talk badly about him, if he thinks that you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, if you're doing something incorrectly on the ship. Basically, if there's anything that you're doing that he doesn't like or that he sees unfit, he's going to punish you very harshly. And we see that in the very beginning where there's someone who I don't remember what they do in the beginning of the film, but he says, like, give this person 20 lashings, but the person's already dead. They're like, well, the body's dead, so we'll just go ahead and get rid of the body and do whatever we do with it. He says, no, you have to carry out the punishment. I want you to do the 20 lashings. So they end up doing these 20 lashings on a dead body, and I think that really kind of shows you in the beginning of the movie the kind of person that he is. He is very much, I would say, by the book when it comes to punishment. He's very much by the book when it comes to everything. He doesn't have a lot of awareness when it comes to people. He is very awkward around people, I would say, and he's also a very evil, very terrible person. We learn later in the film that he's actually stealing from the ship. He is stealing supplies, he's stealing food, he's stealing water, he's stealing all these things, and he's giving his crew just enough stuff to survive. This crew barely has any energy because they're barely eating, they're barely drinking, they're working 24 hours a day, they're slaving on the ship, they're working themselves to the bone, and he gives them scraps of food, he gives them small portions of water, just basically to keep them alive and able to work. That's basically what he does. He doesn't need them to thrive, he doesn't need them to be able-bodied, basically. He just needs them to have enough to get through the day, and that's what he gives them. Now, Fletcher Christian ends up realizing this, that Captain Bligh is stealing from the ship, that Captain Bligh is doing these things that he shouldn't do, and Fletcher is kind of the moral compass of the ship, and he's the moral figure that the other people on the ship go to. They try to lean on when it comes to going against Captain Bligh. There's also Roger Bynum in this movie. Now, Roger Bynum is someone who has a family history of people who are sailors and who are on ships, and at first he befriends Fletcher Christian. They both are very good people. They get along really well together. Later on in the movie, that'll change, though. So eventually, they get to the island of Tahiti. At this point, Fletcher Christian has told Captain Bligh that he's not happy with what's going on, that he thinks Captain Bligh is stealing. They've had this arguments, they've had fights about it. So Captain Bligh decides he's not going to let Fletcher Christensen on to the island. He's going to keep them on the boat the entire time that they're on it. Eventually, though, the person on the island, like the chief of the island, convinces Captain Bligh to allow him to have Fletcher Christensen to have some time on the island. Now, Captain Bligh realizes that he made a mistake and he rescinds the offer, but Fletcher Christensen still goes onto the island anyway. While on the island, Roger Bynum is tasked with making a like a dictionary of different terms that are used on the island, and him and Fletcher Christensen both fall in love with two women while they're there. Now they know that it's impossible for them to stay because they have to go back and deliver these breadfruit plants, so it's impossible for them to stay. But one day they want to go back to the island and be with these two women that they fell in love with. So they load all these breadfruit plants onto the ship. They start to depart. They say their goodbyes to the women that they fall in love with. And as they're leaving, there's a very beloved person on the ship. He is I think he's the surgeon of the ship, and he ends up dying, and he dies in a very tragic way. Captain Bligh, he gets sick. He's unfit for service. He's unfit to be able to work on the ship. But Captain Bligh tries to force him to work anyway, even though this guy is very sick, and he ends up basically working him to death. And the surgeon dies because he's not able to get any rest. He's not able to get any food. He's not able to drink enough, and he just dies. He is a beloved surgeon on the ship, and this really causes so much friction, basically, that this is where the mutiny decides to happen. Fletcher decides that he's going to do a mutiny, because he's tired of watching people suffer, he's tired of watching people die, and he's tired of watching Captain Bligh take these resources away from people who desperately need it. They take Captain Bligh and all the people loyal to Captain Bligh. They put him on a ship. They give him a map, and they give him like some resources, some food, and some water, and they ship him away and be like, goodbye, hope you don't die out in the ocean. And then they decide to go back to Tahiti to be with the women that they love. Now, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the entire movie. I really think that this is where Charles Laughton shines in this part of the movie. So he is on the ship with the crew. They have enough to live for 10 days, basically, but he says they have to make things last 50 days. They have to really stretch the resources. They have to really stretch the food and the water that they have, and they have to last 50 days. And Captain Bligh is such a seasoned captain, and he's so good at doing what he's doing. He's so good at commanding his troops, who absolutely fear him, and he commands through fear that he's actually able to find land. He's able to survive with these people, and he's able to try to enact revenge on Fletcher Christian for mutiny. Now, later in the movie, while the mutineers are on this island in Tahiti, they see a ship coming to them, and Fletcher Christensen automatically thinks that this is not a good idea, that these people are after them for doing the mutiny. So he says he's going to take the bounty, which he has obviously confiscated, and he's going to sail it to another island. Now, Roger Bynum, who was loyal to Captain Bligh because that was his captain, he decides that he is not going to go. He's going to stay with two other people who were part of the crew who never wanted to mutiny in the first place. They were just caught up in it. And he decides that they are going to stay on the island, and they are going to go with this boat that's coming towards them. Now, the boat ends up being a ship that is being captained by Captain Bligh, and when he sees Bynum, he thinks that Bynum was a mutiner, and he decides to put him in irons and take him to trial and trial him for mutiny, even though technically he was not one of the people who did the mutiny. He was just someone who got caught up in it. Now, at the trial, they're basically convicted, and Bynum gives this speech about, yes, there was a mutiny on board, but you don't understand how terrible Captain Bligh was to us, how badly he treated us. This is normal, kind of, in these situations, and if there could just be one captain who could treat his people really fantastic, who could treat his people well, and treat them like human beings and not like animals and not like property, basically, then I think that captain could sail the seas and do whatever he wanted, because he would have a crew that truly believed in him. And he basically talks them out of killing him. They were going to hang him for mutiny, but he ends up not getting hanged because of the speech that he gave. Now, Fletcher Christian, he ends up traveling to this island called the Pitcairn Islands, where there's like no shore. So eventually, what they end up doing is they end up crashing the boat into like the island and then burning it so that they can't go back. And that's basically where they live out their lives with their wives. And even like I said, even today, the Pitcairn Islands is full of descendants of the mutineers from the 1700s, which I think is pretty great. So that's the entire synopsis of the movie. Basically, it's a 2.5-hour movie that's as condensed as I can give. So what did I think of this movie? I thought this movie was fantastic. I absolutely love this movie. Charles Laughton is amazing. One of the best acting performances I've seen in a long time. He also directed one movie in his entire life, and that movie was The Eye of the Hunter, which is also one of my favorite movies of all time. But he does a fantastic performance. He is such a great actor in this film. Clark Gable is good also. I'm going to be honest, I've seen Clark Gable in a couple things. Not like my favorite actor of all time. I think he picks really good movies to do, but he's good in this movie. Not great. And then Franchette Tone was good too. I don't understand why he was nominated for Best Actor. He's he's good in this movie, but I don't think he does anything great. I don't think he does a fantastic performance. I think he does his character very well. The cinematography is absolutely amazing. The set pieces are like overwhelmingly giant and fantastic. What they were able to do in the 1930s with these set pieces is extraordinary. I don't know how they were able to fit together these massive ships on these on the seas, crashing waves and everything. It just looks really good, and the music is fantastic as well. I just love everything about this movie. I think it's really good. I give it a 10 out of 10. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.